Good evening, everyone. We are delighted to see you here. We are delighted for those of you that are virtually joining us tonight. We hope that you will learn something tonight that you can use in your own home and that you will try for the holidays, because that's what it's all about tonight, trying to do some things that are more healthful. You know, we all want to do favorites, right? But at least if we stick a few more healthy things in there, it helps a little bit, huh? I was going to tell you that a few years back, my husband has a birthday in January. That hasn't changed. But it seemed like every year when I wanted to make him a birthday cake, he was sick. And I thought, what's the deal? Well, it's all those holiday things, right? Takes your immune system down, and then you get sick, and you're sick in January. So anyway, that's why I started looking at more healthful options, you know, so that you don't just, you still have those favorites that you love, but you can add some other things that are a little more healthful and don't take your immune system down. So that's some of the things. Let's bow our heads as we get started today. Loving Father, Lord, we're again just so thankful for the variety of foods that you provided for us, Lord. There's so many combinations that can be made. And for the taste, the different textures and tastes of the things, we praise your name that you've given that to us. We pray that you will be here tonight, Lord. Help us as we present these things, that it will make sense and that people will be inspired to live a more healthful life. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. I pretty much put the recipes in order, the way we're going to present them tonight, mainly because some of them we need to bake before we let you sample them. We have some that are ready to be sampled, but just depending on how many come, we want to make sure that we have enough. So the first thing I'm going to do is a green bean casserole. And I don't usually change a recipe terribly, but I kept wanting to, I made this years ago, the recipe that is on your sheet. And I thought it was good, but I made it the other night and I thought, and everybody had already received their recipes, so I thought, okay, this is one time we're going to change. You can do it that way if you want to. But I think I used canned bean sprouts. I think that was a real mistake. How many of you have sprouted bean sprouts and things? Okay, good. I used to do alfalfa sprouts all the time. I don't think I've ever done mung beans, though. But I think it would be fine if you did the fresh ones. But I didn't like the canned ones in it. I thought it gave it a funny taste. So anyway, I made several changes today, and I'll tell you what those changes are. So have your pens ready to make sure that you can, at least that's what you're going to be tasting, so that you'll know what we did. All right. First of all, we're going to make the mushroom gravy. It's a real simple recipe, and it can be used just like the condensed cans of mushroom soup. So if you have a recipe that calls for mushroom soup, this is a great one to use. I use it for a gravy on, vegan patties. I use it all kinds of ways. But this particular one, of course, the traditional green bean casserole has mushroom soup in it, right? So that's why we're going to make that first, and then we'll put everything together for it. All right.
So this mushroom soup recipe, is it the same quantity as Campbell's? Like the can, or you use less of it? Like if you're trying to use it as a, I think it makes more.
Okay. Let me just speak to that. Thank you. Mushroom soup comes in a 10.5 ounce can. Okay, so that's 8 ounces is a cup, so that's almost 1 1/4 cups. All right, this recipe makes 3 cups. So I use as much as I need to put it in for the if it calls for a can, and I just save the rest of it, and it freezes. I freeze it all the time. And then when I need it in a recipe, I can just go get it out of my freezer. So that really is a nice way to do. All right. I'll start putting things into our blender here. I'm going to add the water first. It says to blend the water and the cashews until creamy. I don't have a Vitamix. How many have a Vitamix? Someday I hope that I get to have a Vitamix. That I grow up enough to have a Vitamix, right? But anyway, I don't. So here's the cashews. They're already measured. That's 2/3 of a cup raw cashews. All right. I'm going to put this lid on. I timed it today. I blended it for about, but your blender is going to be different. And your Vitamix. If you have a Vitamix, it'll do it in no time. This is a Bosch, so it's a really powerful blender, but It is not a Vitamix, so I'm gonna blend it. Well, maybe not. Hey guys, we got trouble.
Is there
Is there a switch on the power? See if there's a switch on the power strip.
That's what I hit, and it doesn't go on either way.
I'm hearing something
On,
beep when you turn it on, so I think
okay,
it's
so
on.
it's on now.
It is?
Yeah.
I'm putting it on high, and we'll just let it go. I have to take my stopwatch out. I want to let it go for a couple of minutes. It's not real critical. If you don't do it long enough, it'll just be a little bit grainier, but it's not a big deal. It still works. So, anyway, I usually season, if you go get me a little container like this, that's the one that you need a glass container. Because then I usually measure everything out while that's blending. That way I'm ready to go. It's so fast to make. I mean, you're blending. Okay, I'll be quiet. Might be grainy tonight, but it's okay. That's probably a minute and a half, all right? Won't be the end of the world. All right, so the things that go into that, I have arrowroot powder, and I didn't like the little bag that came in it, so I have my own little bag that I stick in there so I know what it is. And it calls for, what, 2 tablespoons, right?
Is that arrowroot instead of cornstarch?
Yes, it is. And arrowroot acts, it's healthier version of cornstarch.
Hey, Barbara, I'll explain it some more in my recipe.
Okay, she's going to explain more about arrowroot, but just in summary, it's more healthy for your gut.
Yes, but you can use cornstarch if you don't have arrowroot. Yes.
Yeah.
The vegetarian beef seasoning, is that like bouillon, like you use for the
Um,
beef or something?
Yeah, right, something like that. You know, I don't, this is like McKay's. McKay's is a brand that you can get that is has a vegetarian beef seasoning, and that's pretty much what this is. So,
Okay.
You just, I mean, so that beef seasoning, if you were to use a tablespoon of it, I think that makes, it's enough for 3 cups, right? Isn't it a teaspoon per cup?
I think so.
So if you look at your bouillon or whatever you use and figure out how much seasoning you would use for 3 cups, just obviously not the liquid, just use the.
Okay. I'll repeat that so that the people that are watching virtually can see. If you don't have this beef seasoning, McKay's beef seasoning, and by the way, you can get it online. There's a lot of places that sell it. But if you're using a bouillon, it's 1 bouillon per cup usually. You'll just have to read and see, but this is 1 teaspoon per cup is how you make a bouillon with this, all right?
So
Here's
if you're
McKay's
using a
beef
table-
seasoning.
Oh, beautiful, okay? That's exactly what this is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're very handy, Susie. That's my granddaughter. All right, the next thing I need is 3/4 teaspoon of sea salt. All right, and that's it. That's all there is. So now I'm just going to dump this into the blender and blend it a little bit to mix it really well. And then we'll put the mushrooms in there and it'll be all done. All right, so on the mushrooms, I use the canned mushrooms and I use the juice and everything. So just dump the whole thing in there.
So you use the whole can of that?
I do. It's it says on there that it's a 6.5 ounce can. Now, usually in mushroom soup, there's pieces of mushroom in it, okay? So I just blend it a little bit, and so I have pieces still, all right? Mine has just a little, That's all there is to it. All right, now I'm going to put it in this saucepan. And you know, every time I forget how to use this thing. There we go. All right. All right, Susie, this is where you come in. We're just going to stir this until it thickens up. Okay. And that's all there is. And by the way, I don't know if you have a spoon like this. See the flat edge? I love that for stirring because it just scrapes the bottom so nicely and keeps it all cleaned off for me. All right, so I'll talk about some of the other things that I'm going to put in it when it gets thick. All right, I did put, if you like water chestnuts, I like them because they're so crunchy and cool. I just love them, you know, in my thing. So it says sliced water chestnuts. I've cut them all in half because I don't want just a bite now and then. I want it more spread out, okay? So another thing that I put in after we get done, this is for the green bean casserole. I put in some of the liquid aminos, 1 teaspoon. If you want to write that down, is what we're going to put in. Here's my water chestnuts all halved. And I was tempted, I'd probably like them even better if I quartered them, you know, but that's up to you, how you like it. But another thing, what I did when I made this recipe on Friday night and didn't like it, I thought, okay, let's go to Pinterest and see what they do, you know, what all the recipes have. And one thing that was a common theme was the soy sauce and also Worcestershire sauce. This is vegan, you can get it down at Whole Foods. And so I added that as well, 1 teaspoon. So a teaspoon of liquid aminos and a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce.
Would you omit the canned bean sprouts?
Would I
Would you omit them next time? Would you not add the canned bean sprouts? You said they tasted funny.
I would not put them in. Unless I had fresh ones, I might try fresh ones, you know, and just see if I liked it. But it's really, if you like the traditional green bean casserole, you know, how many of you usually have that at the holidays? Okay, cool. See, our family never did, but I love green bean casserole. And of course, some of us here are Weight Watchers, and I just don't do that to a vegetable, so I never get to have it, you know? Putting all that stuff in there just makes it fattening, right? So you can have it once a year at least, right? When there's a potluck and somebody makes green bean casserole, I'm there. All right, so we drove around town. I thought, okay, you got to have the onions on top, right? You can't have green bean casserole without that. Drove around town trying to find things. These were in health food stores. That doesn't mean they're healthy, though. We all know that, right? But anyway, you don't eat a lot of it. This is one I got at Trader Joe's. We drove around town looking for it, and I didn't realize I had it in my cabinet. And there's, of course, Trader Joe's is a pretty good price compared to what you buy. I found these, and I tasted them both, and I thought, well, maybe one's better than the other. You know, they're pretty much the same. So, anyhow,
Can you tell us
that's,
the difference in the volume between those? Because it says 1 container.
oh, 1 container would be a problem, wouldn't it? See, this is the Lars right here. So, I'll tell you what, though. When you put it in your casserole, I just sprinkled it over. I didn't even pay attention. I didn't use a whole container. Okay? So, however you like it, but yeah. So
I
you
think
can,
at Costco they have bags like this big, so you know.
Yeah.
Whatever is here.
so let me review the recipe as we're making it and as you're going to taste it, sample it tonight. I had a terrible time finding frozen French-style green beans. The only place I could find it was at Meijer. And today my husband had to almost climb up on the freezer because they were way in the back and there were only a few packages, but we got them. Anyway, but you can use canned ones. I just kind of thought, I don't use canned green beans very much, so I didn't do that.
Will regular cut green beans work?
Yes, they will, and a lot of recipes call for that. So,
Yeah, and sometimes we call for the whole, breast lines that you steam or
yeah.
whatever,
So you can really change it up however you want to, okay? All right, so I used, and the package that I found at Meijer is 16 ounce, all right? But I found other recipes called for 8 cups of green beans, all right? So I used one package that said made 5 cups, so I used 1.5 packages is what I basically almost doubled it, okay? Crossed out the bean sprouts. I used the water chestnuts. We're going to use more mushroom. I doubled it. The 8 cups, you use a whole recipe of mushroom soup, okay? And omit the water, because this is not as thick, I don't think, as regular. This gets really thick if you put it in the refrigerator or if you let it set. But just to put it in and everything, I do not add the water because it'll just be too soupy. And I don't like my green bean casserole soupy. I omitted the vegan cheddar cheese, but you could certainly add that because some recipes did call for cheddar cheese in it and on top. So whatever your tradition is, go with it. I omitted the onion because you got the onions on top. If I put the onions in, I would saute them first. I just think that they taste a little bit better that way. So, and then the large crispy onions. So any questions? How are we doing? Oh, good, look at that. Wow. All right, we got the green beans drained and ready to go. I can just grab them. Steve is awesome help back in the back. All right. So, the frozen ones are much prettier. They're greener and all that. So, all right, Suze. I think we can turn that thing down. I'll just turn it off. I don't know if you can see. It's pretty thick. I tested it out today. Usually I use just regular, oftentimes I'll use regular cornstarch, but the arrowroot thickened it up very nicely. So, whatever you want to do. All right, so now we're going to add all this stuff that it asks for. Because I'm just going to mix it in this. I'm going to dump the water chestnuts in. And I am going to put the ½ teaspoon salt in. Actually, Susie, let's do this. Can you all see if there's I thought I brought a spatula. Get me a rubber spatula. I'm going to need that to clean out the pan if you can find one. That's asking a big... Okay, Susie, if I hold it, or if you hold it, you want to hold it and let me scrape it out? It's really cool. You hold it and then I'll scrape it out. Okay. We're going to pour the whole thing in here because I did try it today and the whole thing worked very nicely. Awesome. Thank you.
Yvonne, she'll need it back.
Got it. Steve told me if I put anything on the deck over there, he'll wash it.
About how many people does it serve when it's cooked?
I would say that this, the green bean packages said that a cup cooked is a serving, but by the time you add all this other stuff, man, I would think it would serve 16 people if you make it like I'm doing, okay? All right, so I said we were going to put a ½ teaspoon of salt in here because I did not salt the green beans at all when I cooked them. Let me just start doing that. I used this in too many recipes tonight, so I had it in the wrong place, sorry. All right, I'm gonna get our 1 teaspoon of liquid aminos. And then 1 teaspoon of the Worcestershire sauce.
She wants to know if you got the shot glass.
hang on just one second. I'm gonna answer whatever question you had.
Oh, she just told me.
Oh, okay,
She
okay.
was asking where you got the shot glass measuring for
Oh,
two
oh, yeah. They're wonderful little things. I love them. Kitchen stores, you know, that's where I've gotten them. I have several of them. They break so easily.
They do.
And stainless steel.
Oh, really? Really? Oh, wow. I have several different sizes. I have a great big one that'll do up to more than a fourth cup. I think it does 6 tablespoons, which is really nice sometimes. Okay, all stirred up. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in this dish. And the recipe says to bake it once you put the crispy onions on, to bake it 10 minutes. They got way too dark. Okay? So we will, I'd say 5 minutes max. That's what other recipes said today. I would mark that too. So I'm sorry you have to mark so much, but I think you'd rather have a good recipe than one that's really messed up, right? Okay. And we'll show you when we put the onions on. After we bake it, we'll bring it back out and put the onions on and then put it back in so you can see just how many we put on. So, any other questions? If not, then we're going to take our things off and let Yvonne come out and do her casserole. I think he's washing it. I'll bring it right up.
We have a lot of recipes tonight, so. We want to give you all as many options. Yes. For the holidays. As possible. Okay. I hate to start something and not have everything. Or something. Good evening. Sorry. Hi, my name is Yvonne Mickens, and I'm demonstrating the holiday tofu loaf. It's had several names throughout the years, so I adjusted it based on the season. So it's good year-round. But I like this loaf because it takes care of two tastes that we're looking for during the holidays, like some type of protein meat substitute loaf thing, and then also it takes care of the stuffing that you're looking for as well. So it's really like two dishes in one, but very nutritious. So the first ingredient is, let's see here, it says, in a large skillet, saute onion, celery peppers, minced garlic, salt, pepper, poultry seasoning, and celery seed in earth balance until tender, about 3 to 5 minutes. I did that in ahead of time because I just assumed that we all have been cooking for a little while and we all know how to chop vegetables and saute. So figured we'd save 3 to 5 minutes there. So, and I just did it and stored it in the refrigerator. So you can do the same thing if you're really a few days ahead of time. If you're just doing a whole lot of dishes and you just don't want to be overwhelmed doing everything at one time. And the loaf freezes very well. I mean, you can make it maybe in a month or so ahead of time and just freeze it very well and it'll be fine. Okay, so these are the sauteed vegetables. And next, it says, add the sauteed mixture and then the remaining ingredients. So that makes it pretty simple. So I have Uncle Sam's cereal. Have you all heard of this? It's an older cereal. Lou, you've heard of it? Okay. I don't know why they call it Uncle Sam's cereal, but it's wheat flakes and flaxseed. That's basically all it is. So it's loaded with a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, lots of fiber and protein.
Yeah, where did you find it?
I ordered this online through Walmart or Lucky Vitamin or something like that. Marsha found hers at Trader Joe's, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What would you use as a gluten-free option?
You can use corn. If you can buy some the spelt flakes or corn, just, yeah, well, more of a whole grain type of corn, but be careful with the sugars. They have a tendency to add a lot of, even fruit juice sweeteners into the corn cereals, and you might like it a little sweetness in it because some people make their stuffing with the sweet corn bread. The corn muff would work. Anything that's gluten-free, that's a grain, a grain will work, but just make sure it's around 13 ounces so that it'll balance out the texture of the dish that you're doing. Okay. So this is Uncle Sam's. Throw that in there. It's an easy dish, but it's a lot of pre-prep, all the chopping. So, and let's see, what else do we have here? Green pumpkin seeds, 3/4 of a cup. I made a mistake and put them all together. 1/4 cup of walnuts chopped and 1/4 cup of sunflower seeds. That's what that is. And it's 2 pounds of tofu. You don't have to drain it. Just whatever comes off when you open it up, just pour that off, and that's all you need to do, because you do want some of the moisture. My hands are very clean, and what you do next is you just mix, and you want it to be kind of smooth, but you want a little bit of the tofu still present, and really break down the tofu. That's what you're really trying to do, and moisten the cereal. And with the vegetables being warm, it cuts down the baking time. So what I did, although I had this in the refrigerator, I did put it in the microwave for a few minutes to get it back up to a nice warm temperature, about what it would have been if I had sauteed them before putting it in the dish. So, oh, Susie, could you do something for me? Could you turn that page? So while I'm squeezing, I can talk a little bit. Okay, the loaf component. So the tofu's, it's made out of soy. And it says soy in its whole form, such as edamame, tofu, and whole soy milk is healthier than animal flesh in the sense that soy provides an excellent source of protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals without the cholesterol. It really gross. It's really gross. It said, originally it said meat. I'm like, nah, I got to put something else in there. Kind of gross everybody out. So, and then, as I mentioned before, Uncle Sam's cereal is loaded with flax, thus omega-3s. Pumpkin seeds, walnuts, and sunflower seeds also are loaded with omega-3s, and they can fight depression and anxiety, improve risk factors for heart disease, reduce symptoms of ADHD in children, fight inflammation, a natural response to which is a natural response to infections and damage in our bodies, fight autoimmune diseases, improve mental disorders, fight age-related mental decline and Alzheimer's disease. And it helps prevent cancer. So we really do need a lot of omega-3s in our diet. Okay. And I'm going to, hey Susie, you got that saran wrap? Okay, good. Will you do me a favor? Will you take that Earth Balance and rub it into the pan for me?
The earth balance?
Yeah, right there, and rub a little bit in there. Yeah, I'm just gonna, or you can use your fingers if you trust your fingers are clean.
Yeah, my hands are clean.
Okay, yeah, you can use your fingers. Oh, can you move the paper out? I know your fingers are greasy and mine are full of food. Yeah, I'll just get the paper. You can set it in front of me. Yeah, right there. And this is from the American Heart Association Journal. It says cardiac mortality is higher around Christmas and New Year's than at any other time during the year. Every year during the Christmas, New Year's holiday season, millions of Americans abruptly change their patterns of traveling, eating, drinking, exercising, working, and vacationing. Among a few things that change are emotional stressors associated with the holidays, changes in diet and alcohol consumption, delays in seeking medical assistance until after the holiday season. I had a friend who had symptoms of cardiac issues, and he was on vacation. I forget where, I think in the islands or something like that. So he waited until, he just kind of brushed it off. He was healthy, slender. He was a yogi type guy and taught that. And once he got home, he had a massive cardiac condition and died. And so many times we'll put off taking care of ourselves during the holidays because we're busy and we may be away from home, and so we won't necessarily take care of ourselves as well as we would if we were home. So this dish will help alleviate some of the those artery clogging foods we love to eat during the holidays, from Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. All the nice treats that we have, all the cakes and pies and cookies and whatever else. So this will help keep things, yeah, that's good, clean for us. Okay. So I'm just going to press it in here. It just hold it, and I could just, yeah, there we go. Kind of tilt it a little further down. And you can not bake it right away. You can just freeze it and bake it when you are ready for it. That would be fine as well. So whatever you like. Okay, that's good. And you'll give it to Steve. He'll wash it for us. Okay. And you just press it. Just want a good firm press. And what I did since it's Thanksgiving time, I put orange. I like to use the orange bell peppers because it's more of a holiday, Thanksgiving time. Orange, the orange bell peppers. Oh, yeah, I put green and orange and a little red. Christmas time I'd use just red and green. So you can just play with it, make it whatever you want. And so this is what it looks like. And again, it keeps really well, it slices really well. So I'm going to, Barbara, where are you? You think we need to bake this, or will you bring that loaf out that I've done right here? Is it warm? Okay.
This one?
Yes. If you could do your Vanna White, just take that off. And this is what it looks like once it's baked. You kind of tilt it. Maybe kind of tilt it. That's how it does. back in the warming oven.
Okay.
Okay. And that is that. Do you think do we need a, you think we'll need another one?
Besides that one, I don't think so.
Okay, that's fine. We won't bake it then. I'll just take it.
Yeah.
I'll just freeze it. Okay. All righty.
Excellent.
So, and I'll do the gravy real fast.
Don't forget to take that one of the tray out.
Yes.
You keep that.
The box. You take the box. Yes. And I want some of that. Oh, it feels good. I don't like dirty hands. I didn't plan on washing my hands. My portion's just wet. I'm all wet. Sorry. That's okay. Okay, then we're going to do the gravy.
Can't put it under the fan. The fan is too much noise under there.
The fan.
Don't, if you drag it over, they won't be able to hear, nobody can hear you.
You're putting the noisy items directly into the mic, so, yeah, just do a little off center. Sorry, y'all get the.
Oh, this is okay here, it's just I can't have that under it. Okay.
No, that's noisy, that's the fan too, it has a fan.
Oh, it does have a fan, doesn't it? Okay.
Right there.
All right. Okay. This is a quick one, kind of, sort of. So this is the gravy, and we had, in the last presentation, we talked about, we talked about the benefits of cashews. So let me just start first with the recipe. Well, it just says,
If you don't like cashews, you're in trouble tonight, because everything I think we're making has cashews in it.
But I don't think it'll taste good.
it says place all the ingredients in the food processor. So we have, I'm doubling the recipe. So that's a half a cup of cashews, a cup of water, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 6 tablespoons of liquid brags, half a teaspoon of garlic. I like more garlic, but I just, everyone's palates are different. The cashews are already in there. The arrowroot, 2 tablespoons. Now, as Barbara said, it's a thickener. And this is a nutritional yeast. Put the lid on. I usually wear earplugs when I use my Vitamixer. I forgot to bring them. I do. a little, like with the construction workers, those little spongy plugs. That's what I usually use. Okay. Okay, that's it. That didn't take long. So just pour it in the pan and add water and just cook until it's thickened. A friend of mine a few years ago brought this to a potluck, and I fell in love with it, the loaf and the gravy, and And so she gave me the recipe, but I noticed that every time she brought it to potluck, it tasted different. And I asked her what was she doing. She said, oh, she's experimenting with cereals. I'm like, okay, because sometimes it was a little sweet, and sometimes not. She didn't use Uncle Sam's. She used wheat flakes, and I think she maybe used some corn. So,
That's two. I need this. I'm gonna slur it.
I'm just going to kind of clean up the... It beats cleaning it. Those are little nooks and crannies. Oh, it's messy. The rest of it.
I'm so interested in what's going on here. We're getting to know her.
So this won't take that long, 'cause this is pretty, what I did, the water was already pretty warm, so it was already thickening in the Vitamixer, so it won't take that long. But while this is happening, okay, I'm done. And I looked up some of the things about the gravy components. So we talked about the cashews before. But it says all nuts and seeds contain beneficial fats, B vitamins, and magnesium for a healthy mood. The cashews are one of the few actually linked to reducing not just anxiety, but also warding off general stress and even mild depression. So, which is really good. And I had read, I forget what natural health publication it was, that 1 ounce of cashews does to the brain what 1 dose of Prozac does. So it is all the more reason to have this loaf and this gravy for the holidays, because we'll really be, dealing with some stress issues. Okay, arrowroot powder. It says it's a white powdery substance that comes from a tropical South American plant. It's used as a thickening agent in soups, gravies, and sauces. It can also be used for personal care items. I make my own deodorant, and so I use arrowroot. It's one of the components that I use. Let's see. How does it differ from cornstarch? Okay, it's a powder that comes from a South American plant. Cornstarch is also a powder, but made from corn. And cornstarch also thickens gravies, sauces, and soups, and it's also used in personal care. I know back in the day, you see people kind of walking around, and like dust was coming from their bodies because they were hot, and they were cornstarching themselves. So that's what was going on, because it absorbs fluid. Liquid. The one issue they have now with cornstarch is, it says, over the last several years, genetically modified organisms have become incredibly popular in this country, and as a result, almost all cornstarch comes from corn that has been genetically engineered. The process of making cornstarch requires high heat and chemicals as well, so it's not the healthiest form of thickener to use.
So even if you buy organic cornstarch, it's been genetically modified?
Maybe it's not, maybe, yeah, I haven't seen any,
I don't think organic is supposed to be GMO, but I don't know.
yeah, I haven't seen, I'll eat organic corn. I'm trusting that they're what they say, so if you can find it, I'm sure it's fine.
The only problem with that is if their farm is located near somebody that has Monsanto corn.
Yes.
And the pollen, and so, right.
Yes.
And Monsanto was really good about going and saying, hey, our corn,
Mhm.
and,
That's true. That is true. I love corn too. I grew up with it. Okay, I'm almost done. It says the biggest threat caused by genetically modified foods is that they can have harmful effects on the human body. It is believed that consumption of these genetically engineered foods can cause the development of diseases which are immune to antibiotics. So, almost there. And the last ingredient I wanted to say something about was nutritional yeast. Now, I use the non-fortified nutritional yeast flakes because you've seen that really gold. They've added almost like a vitamin pill into it. I get the one that has not, and it's still nutritious without them adding that additional. What's this finished? Okay, and I can't tolerate. My stomach can't tolerate the one that has the added vitamin pill in it.
What brand do you use?
I'll bring out my bag later. But I didn't know that it existed until I was talking with a girlfriend of mine, and she said, I've never used the golden stuff. She said, I've always used the unfortified nutritional yeast flakes. I'm like, okay. This is nice and creamy, so I'm going to let the next person come on. See, it's creamy enough, it's nice and bubbly, so we're gonna stop it. Put this on the lid. I turned it off, didn't I? Does
Yeah,
it take a while?
It takes a little while, so you might want to move that, and I'll move this down so that, well, I can look right here.
That's fine. I don't need it anymore. Do you need it anymore? Are you going to
No.
use it for anything?
No. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate fake feta. I don't know about y'all, but I have loved feta cheese. And I was so disappointed. I have a sandwich in particular that I like, that it's actually a knockoff of Panera Bread. They have a Mediterranean sandwich, and it's got feta cheese on it, and pesto, and all that good stuff. And so when I saw this fake feta recipe, I thought, oh, wow, I wonder if that'll taste decent, you know. So I've adjusted it a little bit the way I like it. So what I did is I reduced some of the lemon that it originally called for, because to me, I don't want my feta cheese to taste like lemon. I want it to have a little kick to it, you know, but I don't want it to taste like lemon. So we will let you taste this. I'll just...
But the recipe they have is the recipe you're going to do.
Is the exact recipe that I've come up with. This is what it looks like, okay? And like I said, we will let you taste that. You can taste what we have today, but it's better if it sits overnight or 8 hours or whatever. So I made some so that everybody can sample that. But Ivana introduced me to this cool little thing that presses the tofu. So we got our tofu in there, but while that is sitting there, I'm going to put all the other things in a bowl here, because it just really doesn't take much to make it. All right, first we have the lemon juice, and I've measured out, and that's fresh lemon juice. Don't try to use that real lemon stuff. All right, and then we have a 1/4 cup water right here, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil.
So is that regular olive or EVA oil?
Extra virgin.
It's extra virgin. That's what I'm using tonight. Okay, it says what, 2 tablespoons? All right. And 1 teaspoon of dried basil. Susie, I have my measuring spoons on that other tray that I put out there. Somehow I failed to put it out here. It was a little light.
Barbara, are they on this one?
No.
Yeah, I think
It's white. If it's red, it's not going to work very good, right?
Oh, she got it, Mom, she got it.
Yeah, that's it. Dry it off real good for me. I guess I should start bringing utensils for each tray. Then I wouldn't have this problem of running back and forth. Maybe eventually we'll figure out how to do this, huh? Thank you. Okay, so I was doing 1 teaspoon of dried basil. Does anybody dry their own basil? See, cool. I do as well. This is from my garden, dried in my little dehydrator. All right, and then I need 2 teaspoons of salt, and it is sea salt that I'm using. Two teaspoons, right? Okay. And then it says 1 teaspoon of onion powder, which is right here. And last but not least, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder.
Recipe says half.
Pardon?
Recipe says half a teaspoon.
Yeah. Is it a half? Oh, it is, isn't it? Well, we definitely didn't want to mess up on that. Thank you. I was just testing y'all. All right, I'm going to stir that up, and then all we have to do is crumble up the tofu that I've been pressing. Does anybody here, do you see that tip on there, how to make feta drier? Has anybody tried that? Ever? It says to put it in the microwave until it starts popping. Once you've pressed it, and then it will get some of the water out.
You mean the tofu?
Yeah, the tofu. What did I say? Yeah, the tofu. When you're trying to get it dry. I've tried it a couple of times. I'm not impressed. I just never have not really the patience. I'm afraid to leave it in there too long, because after 2 minutes, it still isn't popping. So, I don't know. But it works fine without doing that, okay? All right, so here's my nifty little blocks, and I'm just going to crumble it in there. It's all you have to do. Actually, I should have had another dish to crumble it into, because now I'm going to have some big chunks down there that I don't want. And you can cut it into little squares if you want to. I happen to like my feta more like this. It's amazing how much water is in tofu, isn't it? I love these little tofu that you can get at Kroger, because it has those 2 little containers and you don't have to use up a whole. I really like that when they started doing that. It's very helpful. Because my husband and I don't always need a whole brick of 16 ounces. Does anybody use the tofu? I haven't seen it in a store around here, but you can put it on the shelf. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. It's in boxes. It's really nice to have.
The soft one? I make pudding out of the soft one.
Yeah. I've seen several of them. When I get a chance, I buy them, but then you've got to watch so that the dates don't, get. But it's really nice to have it, because then, especially the silken. It seems like when I buy silken tofu, I never use it up fast enough. Because I need a 4th cup or something, and then I've got the rest of it all wondering what to do. Anyway. All right, so I've just kind of crumbled it up. However you like it. Stir it up and then let it marinate overnight, or 8 hours, something like that, and that's all there is to it. And you'll see, I think it's good. I like it. In the summertime, when I have the fresh tomatoes, we put it on top of that, and it's so good. Works very nicely. It satisfies my taste, my desire to have the feta cheese. It works. I keep wishing that I could develop find some really good cheese recipes. I found a few, but I need to try a lot. I have a cheese sauce that's really good. It seems like most of the recipes make a sauce. They don't make something like, you can grate or everything, so. Okay, that's all there is to this one. Jamie's gonna come out next and do the energy balls. Then we'll have the salad, the kale salad, and last but not least, we'll do the cheesecake. I'm going to demonstrate it. The one that I'm demonstrating, you're not going to eat because it has to freeze for 8 hours. But we have a couple back there that we made ahead of time, so you get to taste it. But I think you'll be pleased. It's very good. And see, I did everything exactly like the recipe I gave you. Yay!
So, okay, so we're going to demonstrate the energy balls. I have here separate all the ingredients. All you need is the processor and 5 ingredients. It's very easy to do it, and it's delicious. Okay, so this is start with you want to start with first you put the walnuts and the coconut. I'm gonna do this. This you're not gonna use everything because in the end we use for rolling the balls. So we're gonna put some on the plate here. I'm gonna process this, not for. See, you don't want to do too much of this because the walnuts has the natural oils. And if you do too much, if you stay too long processing, it's, the natural oils will be like, showing. So you don't want to do too much. So we got this done, and you process until this is like a crumb, like the way it is now. Okay, the dates, I got the dates with the seeds, yeah, so we have to take this off. I'm gonna do what is that? This is fresh. When it has the
No, before they're dry, before they ripen all of it.
no, we had to do with the
I saw somebody was,
somebody did with that.
oh, no, they didn't do it with that, but I thought they had it on from the branch with the dates on it, and I was like,
Okay, so this are mid-show dates. That's most of the, that's what people most using. Use all those.
are they, yeah. And dates are like sweet. I think the almond milk has sort of dates in for the sweetness. Yeah.
The dates, they are very high in protein. And actually, if people has like constipation, hard to go to the bathroom, this is helping a lot. So it's one of the benefits for the dates. So we're gonna put this here. Then we're gonna put some cranberry.
The only thing I add on this recipe, it's a little bit vanilla. It's just like a little spoon.
Is that a teaspoon?
Teaspoon, yeah. Give a little bit, different tasting. And that's the coconut. So this we're gonna do here I'm saying for about 1 minute. Gotta get just a minute. You see how is this? It's very easy and it's very tasty. It's you can use like vegan people then always like snacking. So this is the best thing. See, to this, and it's done. I make some over here already. So. That's all. And you can store in the refrigerator for about like a week or so, even 2 weeks. We have it for like about 2 weeks. I don't know if you have time for freezing because it's so good. It is good. It goes fast. So that's all from. So I don't know if you're gonna give it to them now or they just later.
Are you done?
Yes, we're done.
Thank you.
I'm going to quickly just show you that there's the green bean casserole. It's probably a little bit more baked than I would have baked before I put this on, because we were afraid it wouldn't get done, so we put it in the microwave. So it's a little bit. So it didn't take all the container to make it.
Many of you all have a little tiny one of these. Okay, Joe. Christmas.
We actually got rid of our processor when we got the Vitamix, because we used the Vitamix more than we did the processor.
Well, some recipes are so small that it really doesn't do, it's not enough to pull up. Oh, that's right, I forgot.
I have a family of 5 and 6 20.
Never mind. Okay, so I'm making it's a chopped kale salad with cranberries for the holidays. So how many of you all have used this kale? It's called Dinosaur, yeah. So I like it because it's different. It's pretty and green, extra green, and I like the curly kale, but this is a smoother.
For us people who live in Indiana, it's hard to get. You have to go to Kentucky to get it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if Kroger, maybe they have it now. I don't know. We've been here for 4 years. Maybe they got it now.
Okay, I got this at the Kroger right up the road.
Kentucky, yeah.
Okay.
You know, period.
Okay, so I'm going to make the maple orange vinaigrette. So basically, just pour everything in the food processor. And I'm tripling the recipe. So this is 3/4 cup of olive oil. And, well, this is 3 tablespoons of fresh grated orange zest. And when you're, thank you. Sorry. It's okay. When zesting, please make sure you use organic because that stuff has been sprayed so heavily with pesticides. And if you're not going to do organic, put some other things, but if you're going to do zesting, try to do organic or, well, there's just no way to get around it. I would say scrub it really well, but it's still permeated the skin. So that's 3 tablespoons of zest. I'm going in the wrong order. 3 tablespoons of orange juice. This is fresh. Everything. And 3 tablespoons of maple syrup.
If you don't have maple syrup, would you sub it for honey or agave? Or no, you're not getting the same flavor then?
You won't get the same flavor, but you can. Honey has a flavor all its own. I love honey, but it can kind of overtake the flavor of a recipe. Agave is a bit milder, but maple syrup is maple syrup.
What'd you say about agave?
It's a milder flavor than the honey. And let's see here. Got salt to taste. It says salt to taste. I tripled it, so I put a little less than 1/2 of a teaspoon. You judge your own. And I use the Celtic sea salt in this one. And 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And make sure you shake it up really well before you use it because all that, what is it called, mother's stuff, whatever, I guess the really healthy stuff for us, soaks down to the bottom or goes down there. And we just do this. Hopefully it won't ooze out. That's all. You're done. And you take this, and you pour it into your salad. Yes, I drip it through. And you pour it over your salad. You want to kind of let it kind of break down a little bit. It says to toss it and then put the other ingredients on top. I would rather wait until right before I'm going to eat it. And it also said, after you put the cranberries and the toasted pecans and pumpkin seeds and feta and onions on it, to toss it. I'd rather not. I'd rather just put it on the top because when you start tossing, everything falls to the bottom. And so I'd rather let everyone judge how much of the yummy stuff they want with their salad. So right before we eat, I'll put the other stuff on top. So we'll let this kind of break down a little bit for a few minutes. And that's it. The biggest labor-intensive thing for this is stripping the kale greens. Okay, that is it. Take my little thing back. this one will go very quickly. Oh, Barbara, before you, this is the vegan feta that you can find in some of the stores. I found this at Rainbow Blossom. I just happened to be in there and looked over and said, oh. And
Did you use a little bit of what she made too? Like,
yes, I'm gonna have this so that you guys can choose which you'd like to have. I haven't tasted it yet, so I don't know what's going to taste like.
They also have it in, I don't know if it's that brand, but they have it in Kroger. I saw it just
Okay.
this week. There is a feta, a plant-based feta in there. All right, so we're going to make the just like cheesecake. First, I'm going to do the crust. Now, I don't know if you've checked the price of macadamia nuts recently, but they're pricey. So I looked, you know, it said that they was using them because of the high fat content, and so I thought, well, I wonder, I substitute walnuts all the time for macadamia nuts because the flavor is very similar. You can really, I mean, we were in Hawaii and they had macadamia nuts on everything, and I use the same recipes and put walnuts on it. Tastes very good. So that's what I'm using tonight. They have a little bit less fat than a macadamia nut, so I put about a half a tablespoon of oil. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's what I do. So anyway, they're not toasted or anything, they're just plain. This is 2 cups of the the walnuts. Y'all can write that on there that that's what they are. And then it calls for a half cup of medjool dates. As we were discussing before we got started tonight, make sure they're pitted. Pit them if they're not. It will be a mess if you don't. Oh dear. Oh dear. Where there's a will, there's a way. I didn't go and wash this because she just did dates in it, right? Yeah. So we figured that was okay. I'm going to let Susie put it in the pie plate for me while I go ahead and make the filling. All right. Right.
This is like a no bake thing, but can you put that in the oven and toast it?
Can I do what?
Put that in the oven and toast it?
Sure. No reason why you can't. It might not be as easy to put into your plate if it's drier.
She's saying put it in the plate, make the crust.
Oh, I suppose you could. I haven't tried it, but I'm going to run it a little bit more, and I'm going to put some oil in. I'm going to do like a chef I saw the other day. He just poured, he didn't measure, okay? We'll count that as a half tablespoon, right? All right. You can see that it's very fine and nice, right? All right, and what I do is I just dump it all in the pie plate, and then I just use my hands to work it around. Now, I can tell you this, it calls for a, what does it say, a 10-inch pie plate? It's a really good idea if you have a 10-inch pie plate because it makes a big recipe, and I wound up not being able to get it all in there. The other trick is, on my regular, I forgot a pie plate tonight, so my daughter brought hers, which is a little different than mine. But make sure you put it up on around the sides because then you can put more in, okay? All right, so all we do is just press with our fingers, get it around the sides first, and make sure that you have a good amount up here. While she's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and make the filling. All right? Now, one of the first things you want to make sure, let's just scoot you down a little bit, thank you. Make sure you soak your cashews, because in this particular recipe, that softens them and they're going to blend up and be smoother for you, because you want your cheesecake to be really nice and smooth. So, all right, it calls for a half cup of water, which I have here. And it really, you just put everything in together and blend it all together. It's not one thing first or something, later. It's just dump it all in there and it'll work. My blender is almost not big enough, but I'll show you what I do because it's not big enough to make sure that it's getting blended really well. Okay, so the next thing, it says lemon juice, fresh lemon juice that I squeezed. 3/4 cup. I bought several bags of lemons to make sure that I had enough. Then it calls for honey or maple syrup. I've made mine with honey. You could certainly, I haven't tried maple syrup yet. My thought is it wouldn't be quite as sweet, and I like sweet. So, ask if I can have a spatula. And a spoon. Give me a spoon. So sure I have. There it is. All right, thank you. My apologies. All right, this is 3/4 cup, and I happen to like clover honey. But, everybody has their honey, right? That happens to be what I use, and we get it from the plains of South Dakota. We pick it up at the plant where they process it. There's a lot of clover in South Dakota, so there's honey all over the place. All right. And last but not least is the coconut oil. And you can see I didn't put it in the microwave to make it liquid or anything. It doesn't really matter because it's going to be blended up anyway. All right, now.
Is it virgin or is it just regular? The coconut
I
oil?
think it's virgin.
It is?
Yeah.
All right, 1 teaspoon of, it says alcohol-free vanilla. Okay, there we go.
So that was made with glycerin?
I'm not sure, a friend gave this to me. Okay. And a half teaspoon sea salt. I wondered what they do, how they make it if they don't put alcohol in it. So they use glycerin?
It would be vegetable glycerin that they use to do it.
Okay, here we go again. And again, if you have a Vitamix, this makes this a little bit easier. But, let's get it. really mixing down here. That's why I'm kind of stirring it up here, but you don't have to do that if you have one that's really good. I know that Yvonne was telling you about cashews. Did she tell you that when they're raw on a tree, they're actually toxic? Isn't that weird?
Really?
Yeah. If they have to roast them or heat them before they turn, isn't that, it makes me think,
But there's an edible fruit around them. Yes. Yeah, and then, but the seeds have to be processed.
yeah. So I didn't know that before. I thought that was very interesting. And they come from South America. It wasn't until 1920 that we even had them in America because General Mills brought them in. And people got used to them, and you know the rest of the story. All right, isn't that pretty? Didn't she do a nice job? Yeah. And it's so easy to just push up, but believe me, when we first made this, we couldn't get all of it in the dish because we didn't do it high enough on the sides. So we put some in a little container and said, we'll freeze this, and then we'll get to taste it. But you really need the crust with it because the crust just really makes it. So anyway, that plus the berry sauce that we're going to make, and that's just what makes the difference, all right? So what we're going to do, I'm going to pour this in here so you can see. But look how thick it is. It's really quite thick.
Move the thing from in front.
All right. So anyway, I'm just going to pour it in there. We'll see if we can get it all in. I don't know. I think we might make it.
I think that pie plate may be a smidge bigger than a 9-inch. I don't think it is, but my 9-inch do fit down into it, so maybe it is a little bit bigger.
Well, and the key is you got to work that crust up on the sides, even in a big 10-inch one, because you won't be able to get it in there if you do. But it amazes me how thick it is to where it just kind of piles up. Well, I'm not going to waste your time scratching that out. But that's pretty simple, huh? And if you really like it, I mean, it's very simple to do. You freeze it, and then you can make it way ahead. You can have it in your freezer way ahead of the holidays and keep it in there. So obviously I can't serve this tonight. That's why I said we're going to freeze it, but we have a couple of them back here. So we will go back and get all the samples ready, and then y'all can come through line and sample everything.
Are you gonna make the topping tonight, or?
I am, but let's get the samples and let you get going on that, and then I'll do the other, because I've also got to wash the blender, because the blender is what I'm going to make it in. Very good. By the way, if you use a lot of the jewel dates, they're on sale at Kroger right now. They have a package that I think is at least 18 ounces, and they're 2 for 1. All right, we will take this. Looks like they're getting it all going back here. So, anybody have any questions? Any questions about that last thing? No? Okay, good. Again, you know, cashews are a base of a lot of things. If you don't like cashews, there were a lot of recipes on Pinterest that had a different sauce for the green bean casserole. And, you know, they had, you know, mushrooms and stuff that you put in it and so forth. So it would be a little bit different, but I like the flavor of this because of the seasonings and things that are in it. It's just a really good recipe. It's one of my favorites, so. All right, I'll go back and help, and then we'll call you up. You want me to end the video?
Well,
Thank-
I mean, except for the raspberry sauce, so that's what I'm questioning.
Okay, yeah. As soon as they get that cleaned out, I'll come out and do the berries so you can see it. You can. I was glad to see that you can use fresh or frozen raspberries, because sometimes fresh raspberries are really pricey. Right now, they happen to be on sale. I was so excited when I saw the other day that they were on sale, so I could use them for this. But the raspberry sauce is, all it is fresh raspberries and the dates, same type of dates. So it's pretty easy to make too.
If you use the frozen ones, do you need to drain them? Or have you not tried that?
I haven't tried it, because I didn't know until the second round that you could use a frozen one. I just didn't read carefully, so.
Is
Is it the food processor you need?
No, it's my Bosch.
It's your blender.
Yes, my blender,
sorry.
yeah. This cheesecake recipe is kind of funny where we got this recipe. Arden has a cousin out in Washington State who runs a health type place, a retreat where you can come and learn how to cook all this stuff. And some of our members from our church went out there and got this recipe and came back and were raving about it. And we said, oh, that's Aldine's. The raspberries are in the refrigerator. And then I need the raspberries and I need the dates. The dates are up here. It calls for dates, so I made sure I pitted these. I'm going to have to ask him to bring me a container of water because I have to add water to this. Aren't those pretty? One thing about raspberries, I've found that when you buy fresh raspberries, you better eat them. Well, I don't know if this is going to work. I think that's more raspberries than when I made this the last time. So, very good, thank you. All right,
Is there
so,
other fruit too with the date? Like if you wanted to do a strawberry or blueberry, would it taste good like that?
I don't see why you couldn't do that. All right, here we go again. This may not work so well because it's so full. Where's the ever-present spatula? I need it yet again. We just can't keep track of that spatula. I used to make smoothies in my Bosch, but it doesn't pull it down very well. I have a Ninja, and smoothies work really good. I think I should run it on low though because it's the high speed that makes it get a little hold out. That's all there is to it. That's pretty simple too, huh? Yeah. So, I think you'll be pleased when you taste it. So, once again, I guess I'll sign off. Can you, I guess everybody online can see?
No, now they can.
Just blended it all up, the 4 cups of raspberries, and with just enough water to make a nice sauce. So that's what we're going to use. Sometimes I don't remember to give complete instructions back there. So anyway, let's sign off. Let's have a word of prayer before we eat our food, and then y'all can come over for the samples. Loving Father, thank you again, Lord, for all this wonderful food we're going to sample. Thank you for all those who joined us today, Lord. Be with us and keep us safe. In Jesus' name, amen.
better.